While I have my gripes with the Nintendo Switch, it is a pretty impressive system. Before the year 2012, there was a high chance you might run into these same name different games. It's a version of the game that has the same name as one game, but it's so different it's pretty much a whole different game. Like how on GameCube, Xbox, and PS2. SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom is a 3D collectathon. But on PC it's a point and click game. And on GBA it was a 2D platformer. Which would happen a lot, especially for handhelds. Nowadays we have the Nintendo Switch, which is a home console that can be played as a handheld. Nowadays you won't have games like Sonic Unleashed and Sonic Unleashed. With the Xbox and PS3 game, it was too big to fit on the Wii, so it had to be downsized. I think both are really good games, by the way. The Game Boy got a couple of Mega Man games, but apparently well received, so maybe I might have to give them a shot one day. But today's video is about the Xtreme games. Both games being released on the Game Boy Color. Both games along with the RPG, Command Mission, and the remake, Mega Man X were forgotten. I should mention that these games haven't gotten ported in years. At this point, the 3DS eShop is down, even if I could find a way to get it on there. Finding a way to capture 3DS games is as rare as a $2 bill and costs about as much. You could buy a Game Boy Color capture card, and the two games. And also, I want to be as expensive as trying to make it so that my 3DS can capture footage. But honestly, I'm not spending that much to only record two games. And I tried using SameBoy, but it wouldn't work. So I'm afraid to say, but I had basically no choice but to turn to ROM sites. Yeah, so if you see the UI on the bottom of the screen, just know I didn't have a choice. I should also mention that I've never played either of these two games before this video. X wakes up from a dream and suddenly he appears on the highway from X1. And even invites Baba. The Maverick Hunters then find out that data from previous enemies somehow ended up online. So with the help of a new character Mitty, who is some hacker genius, X digitizes himself into the computer to stop for Mavericks. After a while, X finds Sigma, stops him, game ends. Well, I guess that's not all. Mitty has a brother named Techno, who is the cause of the data from the previous Mavericks. He later dies, and because Mitty's CPU is linked to Techno's, both of them were killed. I mean, sucks for Mitty I guess, but the dude only had 2 cutscenes in the game before this moment, so I don't really care. Oh yeah, Zin and Gmo are in this game. The boss fights are okay, I guess. Besides the ending where X has a pretty good monologue, there's basically nothing to the story. And I think it's weird it's trying to take itself this seriously when it's literally a Game Boy Color game. But at the same time, it's a Game Boy Color game, so it doesn't really matter that much. That leads us to the gameplay. For a game on the Game Boy Color, this game handles pretty well. On the Game Boy Color, there's only 4 buttons while the Super Nintendo has 8. You can dash either pressing down and A or by pressing start. On Game Boy Color, pressing start sounds like a nightmare. But on an emulator, you can rebind your controls, meaning I can just set it to the left bumper like how I usually do. But like I was saying, X handles exactly like how he did in X1 through 3, with the added bonus of X having the after image when he dashes like in X4. This game also imports level design from X1 and X2. I thought they did a pretty good job with this. A lot of the time in games like these, there would be screen crunch, but in this game, it wasn't really a problem, surprisingly. This is gonna be a foreshadowing for later. Especially because we go from a TV screen to this. There are still heart tanks, sub-tanks, and armor pieces to collect, so you still have to be on your toes for those. However, I do think they should add new locations for the items. But oddly, they did swap a heart tank and a sub-tank in Storm Eagle stage. Well, that was weird. But Dukin and Shoryuken are also in this game at the same time, which is pretty awesome as it utterly destroys bosses. While it does an insta-kill, you don't need to be at full health to use it. So yeah, I really do enjoy how faithful Xtreme 1 is to the original games, with the bosses even having the same attack patterns as they do in the original. However, I do feel like because of invincibility frames, they take longer to kill. A little too long for my liking, but I digress. And also, the music is pretty faithful, especially almost Armadillo and Magma Centipede. You can get these cool zero attacks that are pretty much only used for bosses. So this must mean I like Xtreme 1, right? Well, for the most part, yes. As I said before, I like how faithful this game is. On the flip side though, I think this game is almost too faithful. There's pretty much almost no change to the level design, which is a problem because there's no reason to play this over X1 and X2. Really, that's what the game's main flaw that holds it back. The mode does say that it must from another computer mode. You think that there would be more differences like more enemies, or entirely new stage geometry. There was nothing like that. What also sucks is how this game handles the 8 stages. In normal mode, and I say that with quotation marks, there's Chill Penguin, Spark Mandrill, Storm Eagle, and Flame Stag. Then you beat normal mode and unlock hard mode, which includes Magma Centipede, Armored Armadillo, My Nemesis, Real Gator, and Murph Moth. In case you didn't notice the problem, this is a hard mode, this is just the rest of the stages. If anything, this is an easy mode. You can just load the already complete save file with full armor and Street Fighter moves. Then get 0 moves, 2 upper sub-tanks, and 4 more heart tanks. And now you have every single weapon. Sure, you can point and say it's kinda like Mega Man 7 and 8, but you need to defeat 4 bosses before you get access to the other 4. But in this game, you got to beat the game and sit for credits, play the intro stage again before getting to the new stages. Which I'll add are also not changed, even though this is supposed to be hard mode. And even after that, you have extreme mode, which is just what the game should have been to begin with. Honestly, I stopped at completing hard mode. I really didn't want to spend another 2 hours playing this game. Like I said, I did enjoy this game, but it's too much like X1 and X2 for this game to be worth playing over them. Last time I touched the script was July 24th. And the day I'm writing the Extreme 2 section is September 2nd. I might be wondering, why did it take me a month to start writing this section? The reason why it took me so long to write this section of the script is because I don't really like this game that much. Hence why it took me so long to finish this game for this review. I know this sounds weird because I just talked about some of my problems with Extreme 1. Extreme 2 attempts to fix a lot of the issues. I recognize and appreciate it for being more ambitious than Extreme 1. But to put it lightly, this just isn't it. Let's start off with the story. Yeah, it isn't engaging here either. I'll admit it tries a little bit harder, but overall it's still mostly non-existent. So a bunch of Reploids have what's called a DNA soul ripped out of their body, and the DNA souls are heading to this island. A DNA soul is pretty much like a human soul but for a Reploid, so naturally X and Zero are required to stop by on the island. They then find the culprits Barkana and Gareth, which all things considered have pretty cool designs this time around. Turns out Sigma also got revived because of DNA souls they were stealing. Beat 'em up, every Reploid gets their soul back at the end. Also forgot about Iris is in this game. Yeah, I forgot to mention, but Extreme 1 takes place between 2 and 3, while Extreme 2 takes place between X3 and 4. It's really cool that Iris gets to be in this game because I really liked her character from X4. But she's really only here for exposition. But this is where we get to the gameplay, and it's gameplay alright. I'll give the devs props for fixing my main issue with Extreme 1. But then I have to take back my compliment because the new level layouts are okay at best. For some reason they just made Volt Catfish's stage Toxic Seahorse's stage. Which I'd rather just have Toxic Seahorse at that point. He looks cool and his theme is better. Neon Tiger does this too, but with Sting Chameleon from X1. At least Toxic Seahorse was also from X3, but using an X1 stage for an X3 boss is just super confusing. Telling the random stage is pretty fine. I liked this bit where you have to use the right armor's hover to reach this heart tank. I could definitely do without the flame section though, but more on that in a bit. Last one stage is pretty whatever I guess. I don't know, there's not much to talk about here. Overdrive Ostrich is frustrating at first with the right armor segment, but once you get used to it, it isn't that bad. Zero being in this game is cool on paper, but a lot of his moves, especially his free combo, have no range. He has 4 screen moves from Extreme 1 in the form of light capsules, which is pretty cool. But overall, playing as Zero in this game is a bust. Well, I'd rather play this Zero than the one in X3, so that's something at least. But overall, the worst part of the game is these sections where lava or water will rise or rush, and you have to wait for it to go away. I don't get why so many levels in this game have this gimmick. It's not even challenging, all it's challenging is my patience. The screen crunch isn't helping either. Like this part in Flame Manor stage. In this game, they decided to make these flame pillars in the original stage fireballs that instantly kill you, which I guess would be fine if the screen wasn't so small. So a lot of the times, I just end up dying before processing what just happened. This means to be safe, you'll probably have to start tiptoeing around the stage. I also wish they didn't get rid of the start button dash. It makes it so that even on an emulator, you have to double tap the D-pad to dash. I guess it is as bad once you get used to it though. And the air dash is here, so you can just use that instead. Speaking on the air dash, let's switch up and talk about things Xtreme 2 does right. The armor in this game rocks, as it's a mix of X2s and X3s. The visually looks like the one from X2. Firstly, I'm glad, because X2's armor is visually my favorite of the original three. But does anyone else think of a buster from a Max armor kinda looks like a vacuum? I didn't mention this in my X1 through 3 video, so I thought I'd mention it here. But back on track, this armor has the arm part and the body part from X2. It has the leg parts from X3, which in case you didn't know are my favorite in the series. Cringy though, the head part is still the one from X1. In Xtreme 1, the armor was pretty much the same in X1, which is fine. But one problem is the leg parts. It is such a small thing that I forgot to bring up in the previous videos. But in pretty much all these games, you can wall kick from clinging onto walls. You do it by holding the dash button while jumping off a wall. I imagine the developers thought that because the dash button was on start, it would be too hard trying to wall kick, for having to press the buttons at similar times. That's just my guess though, but it probably isn't, considering that the starting controls when booting up the game is dash on A, circle, or B, which for me is pretty awkward. The leg parts in Xtreme 1 gives you a wall kick, but it automatically wall kicks, which kinda gets annoying sometimes. This game, like I said, makes the leg parts X3's leg parts. The game kinda has the same problem as Xtreme 1, where you have to beat the game twice to get Extreme mode, to play it like how the game should have been to begin with. But it's actually way better this time. There's X mission where you play as X, and Zero mission where you play as Zero. X gets 4 separate bosses and fights Burkana, while Zero has 4 other bosses and fights Gareth. Xtreme with an emote is gained by completing both. Honestly, I had a lot of fun with it. You're able to swap back and forth between X and Zero, on top of gaining access to all the stages in the game, which means getting every item and every special weapon as both X and Zero. I really had fun in this mode, especially in boss fights where you can strategize how you want to handle it. You can start off as X, then end it with Zero, and vice versa. In this game, you can buy parts. They're basically miniature upgrades. You buy them by using DNA souls, which, now I think about it, is pretty dark. I mean, they're really fine with using the souls of other replicates to power themselves up, but X and Zero can be way more powerful than they should be by getting these upgrades, especially the ones that increase your damage output. I was really surprised when I started having fun with this game in this mode. But it doesn't change the fact that I really don't like the Sigma stages. Besides the first stage, the other two have the same problem that the rest of the levels do. These lava/water sections are really the bane of my existence. I'd love to give a special mention to the Sphinx. This boss just sucks. It's way too big for this tiny screen. There's a spike in the front meaning you can be trapped under the platform. It's constantly moving forward. The top is constantly shooting lightning bolts that home into your location, meaning if you're stuck, you have to deal with that too. The bottom sends out heat-seeking missiles, meaning that you aren't safe on the top either. And finally, you can't even dodge because, again, the screen is so small the thing takes up half of the screen. I have no idea what they were thinking with this boss. Remember for the third stage where X and Zero split up. Zero's segment is pretty fine, but in X's stage, if you don't have the footprints, you just SOL. At least until you game over and head back to Vault Catfish's stage. And the fights against Burkana and Gareth were pretty alright. Then Sigma decides to show his face. Fun fact, in the cutscene where Sigma showed up, I was begging, no, praying to KG and Infinity himself that there wouldn't be a boss rush. Now imagine the look on my face when I find out that there's a boss rush. But I guess at least it's 4 minutes because the Ultimate Buster destroys these things. And then you have a final boss that's easy if you have the Ultimate Buster and Saber, but if you don't, it's just kinda confusing, and then the game ends. Like I said earlier, I don't exactly like this game. It sucks because it tries, it really does, but I don't find much enjoyment in it outside of Extreme mode, and even the Sigma stage is sour that for me. If I had to say which one I thought was better, Extreme mode pre-Sigma stages is more enjoyable than Extreme 1, but I think Extreme 1 is the better game overall. Maybe because I think it has a better campaign than X mission and Zero mission. So, to answer the question I asked a month ago, do Mega Man Xtreme 1 and 2 hold up? Well, in my opinion, yes and no. Yes, as the games can be fun, but no, because nowadays you can just play X1 through 3 on handhelds anyways. Maybe I'd say give it a shot if it was on the Nintendo Switch, but you have to actively go out of your way to play it now. And the fact that, like I said earlier, the Switch has 1 through 3, there's not much reason to play these games anymore. Like I said in the X4 video, I'm gonna be taking a break from this retrospective for 3 videos. All of which starring a certain other blue mascot. But yeah, that's all I have to say. Thanks for watching the expert video, thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you all next time.